Hello and welcome to Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. I'm at the back of the garden in this south-facing triangular shaped bed that we mentioned in a previous episode, where we're going to clear this bed and make it sort of more easy maintenance without adding the chore of having to water this area. So I'm going to put more drought tolerant plants in it, because at the moment there's Colocasias and Gingers and I'm having to irrigate this quite a lot to keep them growing really well in the summer months. So I'm going to remove a lot of these plants, starting with the Colocasia pink chinas, and then we'll move on to things like the gingers as well. And at this time of year, the Colocasias that have been in this bed all winter, and they weren't actually protected this winter, they've come through fine and they've started into growth, but they're not into full growth yet, so not got loads of leaves, not got loads of roots, and we can easily take these out and pot them up. And I'll just show you, if I just basically go down here and pull one up, very, very dry the soil, you can see they don't have many roots yet and there's not much going on underground. So this one is just starting to form its own little bulb, its own little tuber. It's got a little pup on the side, a start of a runner that is, and some other little shoots, side shoots as well. And this, as you can see, not much roots or anything. This will have been attached by this part here to another main plant last year, and this is grown last summer. It started to form its own base, and then this year this will grow up, be bigger, and send out shoots that will make next year's plants as well. So sometimes you lose a mother plant over winter and you have these side shoots come through, and sometimes you keep the mother plant and you get a really big sort of boost to start the growing season. We got the mother plant growing nice big leaves, and then the side shoots bulking up underground before they get really big later in summer. So this one, it's easy to pop up if you want to propagate it. Just get the right size pot. And here I've got some multi-purpose compost, peat free. This one's pretty good actually. It's got added vermiculite, perlite, some fertilizer as well. And we just pop that in, try to get all the roots in nicely, and then just put more compost around it, firm that in, and that's it. Give it a good water. And if you do it this time of year, the plants won't really sult because they've not really had much growth yet. If you dig up Colocasias in the middle of summer, what you might find is they'll survive, but the leaves will curl up pretty quickly because they don't like root disturbance when they're in active growth in the middle of the year. So it's better to do it if you're going to do it this time of year, if you've kept them in the ground. So that's one potted up there. I've got about 40-50 plants around me here. I've got another 15-20 to dig up. So we'll get clearing them and then we'll move on to the next plants. And now we've got rid of all the Colocasias from this bed, it's time to move on to the next plant that we're going to dig up and divide and propagate from, and that is my ginger. And you can probably hardly see it at the moment, just like red shoots coming out of the ground because they're always late into growth. So we're into late May now, and these are about 10-15 centimetres tall, most of the shoots, and we've still got new ones coming through as well. And this is a ginger called Hedychium forestii, very robust, large-leaved ginger, grows very well in a cold climate as well, pretty hardy, down to about -10 or so, maybe lower, but I've not tested it lower than -10, and it grows to a decent height of 1.5 meters, maybe at the top of the flowers up to about 2 meters with lots of water and feed. But in this area, because it's pretty dry, although I do water it a lot, it's only getting to about 1 meter or so, whereas the other one in the damper area grows much bigger. So I'm going to remove this and give it the conditions it wants. So we're going to just basically go around the clump, and this is a division of a division. So this has been in this spot for about 2-3 years now, and it's already multiplied, and we've got many stems. And actually, just by looking at it, it's quite hard to tell where the rhizome is because it's sort of scattered all the way over here. A little bit of it you can see raised above the soil level, but a lot of it is still below the soil level. So I've got my spade, I'm just going to start dividing it or digging it up now. So just go in with a spade and sort of feel around, see how the soil moves, see how the rhizomes sort of lift up. You can sort of get an idea about the shape of the rhizomes and which way they're facing. So we'll just get in there, and I can see it's breaking up already in a couple of places. You've got to be careful at this stage. The shoots are really delicate, and if you bash them at all, then they will be set back quite a lot, and you might have to wait for other new shoots to come. Look at that, I'm just getting on one side of it, and because I've got this really strong spade, I can sort of lever it up, and we can see it's covering a large area, this. So I'm going to slowly take my time, go around this clump, get it up, and then we're going to divide it into sections, so each section has at least 1 or 2 growing points. So I've dug up the ginger now, and you can see I've divided it into lots of clumps, some quite big beefy ones like this here with many growth points, and some much smaller ones as well. And the odd bit I've sliced off like this with a growth point. There's enough rhizome hopefully there with enough root just to get that going, but it might take some time. And I've also got a bit of root like this, so you can see basically it's a piece of ginger, but we have got a growth point on there as well. But ideally you're looking for a section like that, so you've got plenty of root as well as a shoot, and another shoot coming as well. That's a nice good division for potting up in multi-purpose compost. And what I have noticed is this ground is so dry. It's really nice and free draining, which is great for overwinter because it means things won't rot because they're not sat in water over winter. But it does mean when you get into spring and summer, when it's not rained, it needs lots of extra irrigation for the plants that need lots of water, like the gingers. So that is why I am moving this ginger plant. And I think we've got probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 different divisions here of various different sizes. So I'll pot them up, I'll water them really well, and within a few weeks we should see some new growth, and there'll be nice new ginger plants for propagating and putting in somewhere else in the garden. So I'll clear these out of the way, and then we'll attack the Beschneria just over in the corner. So that's the Colocasias and the gingers removed. Now we've got this Beschneria here, and we've also got a couple of Euphorbias here. And this one at the back, I cut back already this year and last year because it kept suffering with rust and other disease, and I wanted to get rid of that foliage and promote fresh foliage which hopefully won't be affected by rust. And so far so good. And this Euphorbia doesn't mind being in a bit of a drier, free draining condition, so this will stay. But I will cut back all this front part and this seedling here of this mellifera as well, because it's in the way of the Beschneria. And also I want this plant to grow up rather than out, so I'll just cut this back. I'm just being mindful that this sap, the latex sap, is pretty caustic, and you don't want it on your skin because it can burn, and you definitely don't want it in your eyes. So that comes away nice and easy, and we'll just move that. Careful of the sap. And then this one here, I think I'll just pull up. There we go. That leaves us now, we've seen this Beschneria, and you may remember probably it was 2 years ago, the main plant flowered, and when it flowers the whole rosette dies. It's quite a spectacular big reddish pinkish flower, and it lasts quite a long time. So that happened, that was a really good show. And then the centre here, you can see it's all died away, so that's all gone corky and mushy, so that's going to slowly rot away. But we do have several pups on the sides, and we've got one main pup here, and we've got 2 or 3 others as well. Now I'm going to keep this here because it fits in with the sort of the more drier, not quite an arid bed, but a drier bed in this area, and it loves the full sun. And I'll keep this main pup, but I will try and remove these side pups, see how much root we get with this, because it is still growing out of the old base. So we'll see what we get. Might be able to just pull it actually, yeah. And you can see it's got a few roots, and that will, because it's quite a succulent leaf plant, that will be fine. I will cut back the foliage a little bit like that, and that will carry on rooting. So I'll pop that up in a nice free draining mix, and I'll do the same with the other pups, leaving this main pup here. And I have noticed there's quite a few more Colocasia pink chinas here, so I might remove some of those as well. So I'll just carry on doing that. I've cleared most of the weeds and stuff on here. I'm going to dig in some grit as well, although it is very free draining. I want to add to that draining, and then we can get to the planting. So now we come to the exciting part, and that's the planting. And the plants I've chosen for this area are a little bit tender, they're not fully hardy, so it's a bit more of an experimental bed. And the first one I've chosen is this Agave Americana variegata, which isn't fully hardy. It should be fine down to -5 if kept dry. Can go a little low when it gets bigger, but it's definitely not something for the long term. But I've got this specimen and it's looking healthy. It's got loads of runners trying to escape as well. And I could enjoy this in a pot for a few more years, or I could plant it in the ground and it might survive 5 years in the ground, it might survive 10 years in the ground, or it could die in its first winter. It is a bit of a lottery because it is only half hardy, but I want to give it a chance. It'll look great this summer in this spot, and I think with a bit of luck we shall get a few years out of this plant before we get a cold winter. So I've had these before, and last time I killed one it was about -7, so we'll see how this one gets on. And this one, like I said, loads of runners that will shoot out loads of pups as well, and hopefully it'll clump up and you can see a few pups around the side. So that will enjoy full sun, it'll enjoy this drainage, and it should do really well this year. In terms of planting it, I will plant it obviously the depth of the base of the plant here, and I won't have it too close to the path. I will set it back so we're not getting the spikes close to people who are walking past it. And another plant we'll be putting here is another variegated plant, and that is oleander. Again, this is not fully hardy, but I think it'll do much better in the ground than it will sort of in this pot. I could keep potting it up into bigger pots, but I find plants like this do better in the ground, providing they survive our winters. And with this free draining mix we've got here of this chippings, the gravel and the soil, which is very free draining, this should do pretty well. It's a nice variegated one, so I will point out obviously it's a very poisonous plant to people and cats and things like that, so you don't want to be eating it obviously, but you shouldn't be doing that anyway unless you know what it is. So this will go at the back of this bed, and this will hopefully turn into a nice large shrub and cover the back of this very sunny free draining border, and it won't need much watering in summer. And then the next plant is going to be this agave. This is Agave ovatifolia, giant form I believe, although it's very small at the moment. And this has been doing okay in the pot, but as soon as you put these in the ground they just bulk up and they get much bigger because they can get the roots down. So this has been in a pot from seedling size for about 5 years now, and I know this can grow into a giant. And these 3 plants here are going to be the main plants in this bed, and they'll look very small to begin with, especially this one when we dot this in the ground. But you've got to remember these plants will get big if they survive. So this one can easily get 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters, so easily cover from the back to the front of this bed in this area. So it needs to be set back away from the path so it has space to grow, and also doesn't want any big permanent plants around it that will squash it out. So this bed will look pretty sparse if I just had those 3 plants in it. So we're going to add some summer colour. We've got some nice red daisies, we've got some nice aeoniums for summer bedding as well that fit into the theme, and it should look really good. So I'll get planting. So there we have it, this sunny, almost arid bed planted out. Topped it up with some nice golden flint as well, so I'll give that a bit of a wash over and you'll see the nice golden colours of this gravel. And you can see the plants look okay at the moment, and obviously this is day one. Once they've established, bulked up, facing the sun, they'll look much better. And these days I do think add a good splash of colour whilst the other plants get established. So we've got the aeoniums I've added in at the front, so I've dotted them at the front. We've got the agaves here, we've got the oleander to my left, and I think it's a nice little display. So Thank you for watching this edition of Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Join me next week, we'll be doing more in the garden.